This episode of the Auto Tech Show is sponsored by Zebra Technologies, connecting you with the edge, where the future is boundless. Hello and welcome everyone to another great episode of the Auto Tech Show. My name is Mark Babin, your host, and it's great to welcome you all today to this one. In this episode, we're joined by Lucie Dobeer, Head of Automotive at Unipart, a supply chain solutions performance improvement partner, and Maria Nelson-Clark from Hyperbat, a joint venture between Fortescue Zero and Unipart focused on battery remanufacturing and advanced EV solutions. As the automotive industry accelerates towards electrification, this episode will explore how sustainable logistics, strategic partnerships, and circular battery strategies are helping reduce carbon footprints while meeting rising production demands. From reverse logistics to real-time visibility and high-efficiency EV supply chains, we'll unpack what it takes to power the future sustainably and at scale. And with that, Lucie, Maria, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm really looking forward to your insights, to have both of you on today. What a treat. So again, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mark, and thank you ever so much for having us both here today. It's an extremely exciting time for all of us at Unipart. We are today a completely different company to even who we were last year. To some of our customers, we are a logistics provider. To others, we are a manufacturing company. And sometimes even our customers are really surprised by the breadth of services that we can provide. And that's not just in the automotive sector, that's in rail, healthcare, technology, aerospace, and the list goes on. So now we are working much more collaboratively across Unipart because Unipart is in this unique position. We can now solve a mass range of issues for our customers. And that's why Maria and I are here today on the show together.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Lucie, and thanks, Mark. Yeah, so thanks so much for inviting us on the podcast. It's really a pleasure to be here with Lucie to delve into the theme of sustainability and electrification with you. So as Lucie kind of touched on, Hyperbat is actually a branch of Unipart's manufacturing capabilities, and we are focused on electric vehicle battery manufacturing and remanufacturing. So Hyperbat was originally set up to kind of close that manufacturing gap between prototype production and, mass volume OEM battery production. So we're offering that kind of in the middle service to scale up battery production and offer low to mid volume manufacturing. But actually what we have recognized is that our kind of capabilities in the manufacturing space actually offer loads of benefits to remanufacturing and driving a circular economy in the EV space. So yeah, very happy to be here with Lucie and talk about how it's just so important to have both that technical capability and a compelling and agile logistics solution that goes alongside it to be able to really make remanufacturing and the reverse supply chain of EVs a reality.
Absolutely. And I think that's just going to make this conversation quite interesting because we have that two sides of the coin and we can really see how one influences the other and how that's contributing to more successful projects and partnerships. I think we'll get into a lot of that. But before we do, Lucie, I want to come to you with the first point here. We see a lot in the market right now around the word sustainability. Now, obviously, that's a huge word. It means a lot to a lot of different things to a lot of different people and a lot of different processes within even a single organization. But aside from the change that sustainability can bring to an operation, to an organization, how do individual sustainability goals influence supply chain strategies for automotive companies, especially as we're going to talk today a lot about this EV battery logistics?
Yeah, so great question, actually, Mark. And I think organizations are finding that this is actually more challenging than it does look. So with outdated systems, siloed operations, limited visibility is having companies working with multiple logistics services. So where they have ocean, air, road, all of those different organizations, it's very difficult for organizations to track and kind of reach their sustainability goals. So another fantastic part about Unipart is that with the manufacturing and the logistics in one, it's able to kind of benefit in a way from those sustainability goals because we're able to track them together. And then obviously from the visibility side is being able to use those types of measuring abilities to show that to the organisation. So it is tricky, but we are here to help.
Yeah, absolutely. And having those conversations, I think, is such an important first step as well, and understanding where they need the help. Do you find in a lot of the conversations that you're having that first bit of understanding is so vital to the success that you have down the line?
Absolutely. Yeah. Those types of conversations need to be had very early on. So the data, those types of conversations, and that really helps us because no customer is the same. No project is the same. No company is the same. So it's really difficult for them, and we get it. So those types of conversations really help in order for us to kind of bespoke what they need, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So, Lucie, sticking with you, I do have just a quick follow-up. There's a lot of real-world logistics innovations. We're seeing more and more innovations come to market. But I want to know which ones have had a measurable sustainability impact, because we see so many different elements and different real-world examples, some like packaging, transport modes, route optimization. Which ones, in your experience, have had measurable sustainability impacts?
Yes, so we have a great example, actually. We have a customer that's been with us for a long time, and we were able to make suggestions to their supply chain in order to make them completely move away from single-use plastics. So we bespoke kind of the way that we do things for them in the operation, in the warehouse, even down to the engineers. So the engineers that go out on the road, when they come back, all of their packaging, everything comes back into us, and it's either recycled or reused. So that's a fantastic example of the way that Unipart are able to adapt and move with the customer's times. I think the biggest focus from an OEM perspective is the move and the shift towards biodegradable packaging as well. The whole focus around recycling. And if a OEM is able to use a lead, a logistics provider that can say, hey, we can recycle this for you, or we can reuse this for you, that is something that an OEM would really benefit from, because it's one less concern for that OEM, but someone like Unipart are able to measure those types of, the amounts and the flow to be able to give that back to the customer.
And do you feel like just in those when people are looking for that level of impact, do they understand the long-term game that's at play, or do they expect more of that short-term result?
I think we've moved to from customers looking at it from a short-term result, because this is something that is here to stay. So they are now looking at it from a longer angle, so more of a longevity. So when customers are entering into tenders and so forth, that's now part of a tender. So you're looking at a 3-year deal, 5-year deal, whatever, the length of the term of the contract. Customers are now building those requirements into those tenders so that the logistics provider is having to adhere. And I think that's fantastic. I think that is exactly what we should be doing. It's not about a conversation, it's about part of the deal. And I think that is key.
Absolutely. And it manages that expectation right up from the front, which I think is also super vital in being able to succeed and meet goals and meet KPIs down the line. Maria, looping you into the conversation here a little bit from the battery remanufacturing point of view, what role does that play in the sustainability conversation? And kind of a second part to that is, what are the biggest environmental benefits we see when batteries are in an ecosystem longer?
Yeah. I'll start by just explaining what kind of battery remanufacturing is in a very simplistic way.
Sure.
So effectively, it's like a refurbishment process for an electric vehicle battery. So if you're driving your electric vehicle and actually the state of health of the battery or the performance of the battery isn't as it should be, it's likely that there's a fault with the battery, and therefore the remanufacturing process is there to analyze the battery and actually repair it. So rather than discarding that pack and giving you a brand new battery, what the remanufacturing process does is just replace the kind of faulty components, so you get a kind of a fault-free. Your battery is effectively returned fault-free. So with that in mind, battery remanufacturing is therefore really critical to driving decarbonisation in the EV sector, because it's extending the life of products that are already on the market. This obviously results in significant decarbonisation because you're needing less new batteries, and therefore you're digging up fewer raw materials to be able to fuel that supply chain of new packs, because actually you're able to reuse and continue to use most of the components within your existing battery pack. And also, I guess another consideration is that it's also reducing the amount of hazardous waste that's going into the end-of-life supply chain, because you're only disposing of or recycling the kind of faulty components, not the whole pack. So, the kind of key takeaways of that are that you're reducing the amount of hazardous waste, you're conserving raw materials, you're lowering carbon emissions, and, the environmental benefits speak for themselves. And then I guess a secondary point to that is the resilience that it can enable, the resilience that it can enable within the EV supply chain, because if batteries are typically going to be remanufactured locally, so you're essentially creating like a closed loop kind of supply chain of like raw materials within a particular territory. That's also going to reduce the logistics challenges, because things are moving about within a particular country rather than across the world. So there's lots of environmental benefits that hopefully I've outlined.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like these benefits carry with them a large weight when it comes to challenges. And it sounds like there must be an absolute load of challenges in achieving all of this. What are the biggest ones from your perspective that really have an impact when we look at both scalability and the environmental option?
Yeah, there are quite a lot of challenges, because I guess battery technology itself is newish, and actually products are designed to deliver a particular performance to the customer. They're not at the moment designed to be sustainable in the sense that they're not necessarily designed to be repairable and remanufactured. So the first challenge is, can the battery design itself be dismantled effectively in order to repair it? The second is that, okay, each pack, yes, you can disassemble it, but there's going to be lots of different variations between the different battery designs. And then secondly, when you come to do that repair, the faults are often quite different. So there's quite complex workflows that you have to kind of go through. So standardizing that process is complex. And obviously it's a high voltage battery, so it comes with, safety hazards. And obviously all of that does sound quite complex. So in turn, that comes with a bit of an economic challenge in how do you do that viably and economically viably without compromising on kind of safety and quality, which is also obviously of the utmost importance. So yes, it's challenging, but there are lots of opportunities. So I'm happy to touch on those as well.
I was going to say, it sounds like these are really some significant challenges, and you must see great opportunity. You must see a real bright light at the finish line if you want to even approach these challenges.
I mean, the very bright light is that there are, there's lots of EVs on the road today.
Yeah.
There is only going to be more EVs on the road today. So ultimately, it's a very large and growing market. But most importantly, it's also a very underserved market for all the reasons we've discussed. But actually, for example, we know that there are OEMs who are just storing used battery packs in warehouses and very simple kind of just sheds, because they haven't committed to recycle the packs because they don't want to completely destroy them. They haven't committed to a remanufacturing solution, but they also don't really know what else to do with them. So at the moment, they're effectively just waiting for that viable solution to come along that's both economically sensible, but also gives the quality that's needed. So one, there's a big market opportunity. Second opportunity that we see is that by offering by bringing this remanufactured solution to the market, you're also solving a real problem that kind of dealer networks are currently facing. Because if you're a customer and you have a fault with your battery at the moment, it can take you a long time to get booked in with the dealer to have that repaired. You could also have it repaired, but then soon after experience a fault, because actually the dealer networks aren't really and truly geared up to be battery remanufacturers, because they've got so many other technical challenges with the vehicle that they know how to solve, that actually the battery is quite a specific piece of technology. So from a customer perspective, it's not a great experience, and you're left without your vehicle for quite a period of time. So by working with a technical partner, such as, it could be Hyperbat, it could be, there are other battery remanufacturers available, but by working with a battery remanufacturing partner, you're able to alleviate that pressure on the dealer network, because you're able to outsource that remanufacturing capability. And with that comes, a whole host of new ways of thinking about the whole customer experience. Rather than repairing a particular customer's battery and that taking, a week or so, you could just replace it. But to be able to replace it, you need to have a technical partner who's already repaired a stock of these batteries for you, but you also need the logistics solution to be able to collect and return batteries, but also provide a store facility that's storing all these remanufactured batteries. So as you start to kind of think of that solution, you can really see how the technical capability needs to sit really closely with a logistics solution that's able to provide kind of agile transport alongside EV battery storage. So lots of opportunity, and there is even one more opportunity that I'd quite like to touch on if that's okay.
Yeah, if you could, please.
Sorry, I know this is a long answer, but
no, it's great.
Also in the used car market, that's also a big problem for electric vehicles. So compared to ICE vehicles, which actually can retain their value quite well, EVs, the value in the used car market drops off massively because people are concerned about having to replace their battery and the cost of that. So if by bringing a remanufactured product to the market that can be bought by the consumer to replace an old battery for a significantly lower cost than a new one, or if there's an affordable battery repair service that consumers individually can go to, that could really also help to improve that customer experience. And all of that links together to improve people's perception of electric vehicles and improve their perception that this is genuinely sustainable because batteries can be repaired. It's actually economical because I don't have to shell out and buy a whole brand new battery in 10 years' time. And ultimately, that's going to just continue to fuel that market adoption of EVs and continue to grow this pool of batteries that are available for kind of remanufacture.
Yeah, beyond that first life, I think that's a really interesting last point. It sounds like a lot of these opportunities then do rely on having a close collaboration with both the logistics partner and the remanufacturing specialist. Can you speak to just how important that is when we look at recovering efficiently, handling safely throughout the entire process? How important is that close collaboration?
Yeah. I mean, on our side, as I kind of described, there are various different strategies that you can work with a customer to deliver around remanufacture, but all those different strategies require a slightly different logistics solution. It might require you to collect a used battery and use ADR transport. It might involve collecting a whole vehicle. It might involve storing remanufactured batteries. It might involve storing used batteries that haven't yet been remanufactured. So there's quite a lot of transport and kind of warehousing solutions that are needed in partnership with the technical actual remanufactured service of the battery, that not only needs to be kind of flexible, but also quite agile to do like a request specifically from a dealer. So it needs to be very responsive. It's just that agility and the flexibility that's just important. And I think if you were just relying on a standard supplier relationship with a logistics company, it'd be quite difficult to manage that commercially.
Absolutely.
I think by having a real collaborative partner where you're both driving towards the same mission and you both truly understanding the customer needs and are both trying to serve those same customer needs, that's the only way that can really, really work.
Yeah.
in my opinion. But Lucie.
Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense. And yeah, Lucie, coming to you from the logistics side of that conversation, then obviously you are that logistics solution. How does the reverse logistics of batteries differ from traditional parts? It seems like traditional parts would almost be child play compared to the level of complexity and the agility they need to have in this side.
Yeah, and touching on Maria's point, what a wonderful solution that we are able to provide to customers, that we have got the expertise of the likes of Maria from Hyperbat. We have the level of expertise to be able to move produce, right? So when it comes to batteries, you are entering a whole different game here. They are hazardous materials for a start, particularly, lithium ion ones. They require complete specialist handling, packaging, transportation. So by partnering up, you've got the expertise right there doing what they do every day, what we do every day, collaboration together. What an amazing force, because this isn't just moving a glass screen. It's even more dangerous than moving somebody's windscreen, right? Because this is something that does require a load of data. AI is going to play a huge part in this for us. Bodies, specialist warehousing, potentially sprinklers. You have to completely think about all those different things. Strict regulations. Government legislation changes every day. So if you move a battery to a country tomorrow, chances are that moving that battery to that country, the legislation around moving that battery will change in a few days to a few months, certainly within a few years. So you really do need to have that specialist requirement. So it's the skill, the knowledge, and then by doing that, you gain the trust. And that is something that we are really, really hoping that this one Unipart will now create to our OEMs and our tier 1 and 2 suppliers, is that they can trust us. We do know what we're talking about, and we do have that specialist activity happening here.
Do you find in those initial conversations then that because of the level of complexity and because of maybe the learning curve and the education side and the infrastructure side as well, that it's an easier conversation from your side for them to trust you because they sort of have to, they don't have a choice? Or is there still an uphill battle you have to have in conversations?
I would say that it will always be an uphill battle, because OEMs do always like to have a trusted partner, and it's very difficult for them to deviate and move away from their current supplier. And I think with the way that things are changing so much, everything that we do is built on relationships. And I'm a huge advocate on collaboration internally and externally to build that trust and give that information across. And once you kind of have that relationship with an OEM and you're able to demonstrate. So I love to use live examples. I recently took a customer in an OEM world to visit Maria's Hyperbat in Coventry in the UK, and they were blown away. How would we possibly be able to offer an end-to-end solution? How can we possibly do that? There is nobody else out there able to offer it, but we can. And we really blew them away. I always feel so proud of Unipart, driving my car home at the end of that day thinking, oh, I love the way I saw their face. I looked over at them and they were like, wow. And, we live, we breathe, we eat, we sleep this. But what we really want to do now is bring a lot more people to show the work behind the doors of Coventry and really highlight that they can place orders for small amounts of, harnesses, for example. They can really model their supply chain. They can trust Unipart to make it, move it, store it, produce it, everything. It's literally a wonderful offering. And I think once we really showcase that, what a wonderful opportunity that is for the OEM, and the trust and those relationships are already happening out there. And it's wonderful, Mark. It really is wonderful to see.
Absolutely. I can just imagine seeing that you described so well, that the reaction experience. That was such a special part of the journey that you get to have. It's sort of that climax moment when they get it, right?
Yeah.
We understand why this is such an important part. Can you speak to the relationship then with Unipart and Hyperbat and having that tight connection between you two and how that's propelling this whole sustainable logistics space in the automotive space forward, having that tight connection between both of you?
Yeah, so the partnership between Unipart and Hyperbat is an example of how collaboration, just that one word, can drive innovation and the sustainability in automotive logistics. So Unipart brings its expertise in supply chain optimization, ensuring that the flow of parts and materials is seamless. The use of predictive technology, real-time data enhances the inventory management and reduces the downtime for that. Both companies will emphasize environmentally the responsible practices. So, for instance, Hyperbat integrates sustainability into battery production processes, while Unipart supports sustainable logistics solutions, such as sustainable packaging and energy efficient operations. So the two go hand in hand. It's just, Maria will always need to speak to the battery person, and I'm talking to the logistics person. But what we have found very recently is those internal conversations within the OEMs are actually starting to really join up. So if we look at how things were a year ago, 2 years ago, why would somebody in supply chain know anything about the batteries? But we are noticing that actually, when I talk about something to somebody in the supply chain world in an OEM environment, they say, oh, so-and-so from compliance or the engineering department, they were talking about this subject the other day. That's really interesting. So between Maria and I, we will join these dots, and that collaboration it's already happening. So imagine where we're going to be when we revisit this podcast in 12 months' time, Mark. We hopefully will be able to drop a few names in there and not have to worry too much about the NDAs.
Yeah, I'm sure you're getting some pretty powerful stories built up, and it sounds like it is really because of the connection that you share and that transfer of information and that open door sort of life between the two organizations. That's absolutely fantastic.
Whether your biggest goal is increasing actionable visibility, augmenting and empowering a productive workforce, or optimizing quality and traceability, Zebra has what you need to advance in your journey and transform everywhere from the plant floor to the warehouse and across the supply chain. Because the connected factory is where innovation and productivity finally meet. And Zebra is ready to help you get there.
Maria, from the Hyperbat side, I'm really interested your take on this, particularly on the lessons that you've learned in building this relationship when it comes to the shared goals, aligning strategies. It's still two organizations, but you have to have that commonality. What are the lessons learned there?
I think just touching on what Lucie said, I think it's around that shared, you kind of do need to have that shared mission, and it can't just be based on a particular revenue target, because to be honest, this is an evolving market opportunity. And there are so many challenges that we've kind of both discussed around how to build that solution, that actually they kind of, obviously we know that there is a revenue opportunity out there, but there's also so much investment and so much upfront work that we're going to have to do to be able to deliver that kind of compelling solution. And obviously we're doing it today for a limited number of customers, but to really kind of roll that out and scale it up, you can't only be focused on like the financial numbers. You also have to be going after that ultimate sustainability goal and believing that we're doing this because it's the right thing to do from a sustainability goal to drive forward EV market adoption, and deliver that kind of circular, kind of within territory, kind of circular supply chain solution. So as two businesses, I think we both have that same mission. And with that kind of mission mindset, we're both willing to really tackle the challenges that we see in front of us and not just look at it and think, oh, that looks expensive and hard. Not going to do that. We've really kind of overcome that hurdle by being kind of mission driven. So in terms of kind of shared goals, Lucie and I and the broader teams are very kind of persistent and dedicated to kind of solving this challenge for customers in a variety of different ways. We definitely couldn't do it alone. I think when working with Unipart and Lucie, they've been able to share real insight into the aftermarket sector that Hyperbat as a business just didn't have, because previously we were focused on battery production. So we were very much on the kind of original equipment manufacturing, new battery side of things. We weren't really thinking about kind of dealer networks. We weren't really thinking about aftermarket and the specific challenges in that space. But actually Unipart's been able to really help us in that regard. And then I guess conversely, they've also been looking at this and speaking to OEMs and kind of dealer networks for a while in terms of the logistics, but hadn't had that kind of technical solution to support it on the technical battery side. And we've been able to close that gap as well. So there's really been a lot of kind of synergy, and we've definitely found that collaboration is really key to succeed in this space.
Are there particular moments, and if you can remember some or not, we can always backtrack, but are there particular moments where you remember going, I think we have something here? Was it immediate, or did it kind of have to brew and have to find its path, or was it immediate when you knew that you had that strong potential in the partnership?
I mean, Hyperbat is effectively like a child of Unipart, because we're a joint venture between Unipart and Fortescue Zero. So I think we've always known that there's opportunities to collaborate, but I think it hasn't been until Unipart's really embraced the kind of one Unipart approach and trying to really bring all of its different kind of divisions and departments together that with that, I guess, not speaking for Lucie, but I guess within Lucie's goal, that whilst she leads in the logistics and kind of supply chain space, she's also now having to think more broadly around what are manufacturing doing and how can we bring all that together. And in turn, that's kind of looped Hyperbat up into that opportunity. And I think Lucie and I have kind of seen the huge opportunity out there when we work together and kind of just run with it. And I think the business has also really got behind that mission as well that we've described.
Yeah. Lucie, I guess your insights on that same point, I'd be curious, just before we get to sort of the end here, did you knew it was going to be a success? Did you know right away that this was going to work, or how was it from you and your team's perspective?
So I think my approach to all of the OEMs that I work with is that I always like to help, and it's never really seemed as a kind of a sales approach. It's more like, let me help you. So when we were sat around a table and they were talking about batteries and they were about to sign contracts with battery suppliers and manufacturers outside of the UK, in my head, I know how much it costs to move batteries on the ocean. I know how much it costs and the limitations to be able to fly batteries and not certain batteries via air freight. So in my brain, I think, why would a UK OEM go for a battery supplier outside of the UK? Mm-hmm. And look what happens in the world today with tariffs and changes and government legislation and airlines placing embargoes on certain products, shipping containers, the Red Sea issues. It would be great for me to be able to say to an OEM, hey, I know a battery manufacturer, so and I know them really well. and that is kind of the light bulb moment. And I was able to call Maria and say, hey, did you know that so-and-so's, about to sign this contract, and do you want to step in? Do you want to, this might be a good opportunity. So, I guess my point being is people need help. OEMs need help. They need that expertise. And I just feel like we are in a wonderful position to be able to help. And that's kind of where this has gone.
It sounds really organic.
Sorry, Mark.
No, go ahead.
Just going on, just to carry on Lucie's point and also link back to something that she said earlier, I thought was really interesting. I think is another bit of an aha moment, but generally in the market, is that because of the complexities of moving batteries around, that's probably why, Lucie, as you were describing, there are lots of kind of supply chain leaders who are now kind of involved in technical or kind of sourcing decisions around battery technology. Previously, that would have been very much within the engineer's function, and they would have just chosen the best technology and gone with it.
Sure.
But actually, that's led to some quite strange decisions and perhaps like not particularly sensible decisions in terms of where they've sourced that battery technology from, that then has a significant impact on the supply chain. So as those two parts of the business now have to work more closely together to make sure that they're coming up with procurement decisions that really make sense for the business, that's kind of how it's also brought our two solutions together as well. And I think we've spoken quite a lot also about the kind of the UK, but actually Unipart Logistics Unipart is a global business, and Hyperbat, whilst at the moment our facility is also in the UK, we are looking to grow, and there is opportunity, or we expect that if and when the market presents itself the right opportunity for us, we are also looking to expand in the same way that Unipart is. Because as we kind of discussed, particularly in the remanufacture side of things, like having localized solutions is kind of what the market needs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that feeds really well into the kind of the last point I want to address, and maybe, quite poetically, actually. It's the final question I want to offer both of you, and I'll pass it to Maria. I'll come to you first on this one. Obviously, we have a bit of a platform here. People are listening. We know that people want to address their supply chains, especially within sustainability and innovation. We know that that's something on pretty high on the agenda for most organizations and most teams these days, especially today with so much variability in the market and everything we're seeing. And so knowing that, what advice do you give to OEMs and suppliers looking to build better, stronger supply chain partnerships? What's your message to them?
So for better, stronger supply chain partnerships, I think you're never going to have one supplier that can do it all. So I guess my kind of recommendation is to be able to build a resilient supply chain, you do need to have a network of kind of core partners who are all bringing a slightly different or bringing their own kind of technical specialism. So I think in this example, you've got your logistics and supply chain capability that links very closely and is completely interweaved with a manufacturing capability to support quite a broad range of components across the automotive supply chain. So with that partnership, you're driving a lot of resilience, and you're gaining access to a lot of capability and skills and expertise that is very broad, and that in turn is going to help to drive the most effective solution for your supply chain. In turn, I think that links also to a different aspect of resilience, which is that kind of localization of a supply chain, both in terms of new items, but also the reverse supply chain of items. So reducing, transit times, costs and risks. You can do all that by localizing, and that's not always the right solution for everything, obviously. But in particular situations, such as the one we've discussed today around remanufacture, having local partners that can offer a broad range of solutions is really critical.
Absolutely. And Lucie, over to you as well with that same question. What is your message from the logistics side of the conversation to those OEMs?
Yeah, so I think what would be the best way forward for this is that we are invited in extremely early on. So long before tender stage, I am all about relationships. And I feel that the days of issuing a tender document out to a company, we complete it, send it back, we need to move away from that type of process. We need to build those relationships. We need to understand the business. And it's how I've always worked, and it works for me, and it really helps the OEM to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, you know, this part of the business that I spoke to you about before, we're now struggling in this area. Can you have a look at it? We can't just keep answering the tenders. So my advice to OEMs is we want to help, but we need the data. We need it early on. We need it shared with us. You know, never to be too frightened to share too much, because, you know, we're here to listen. We're here to help. And one of the things that Unipart are absolutely great at doing is getting in and amongst it. And every single customer profile that I walk around all of our sites globally is that no customer is the same. So the customer is able to say, hey, we need to reach this target, and we need to support this side. Well, let us get behind that and take some of those problems away, because we want the problems, we want to solve them. And it works so well. You know, we've got customers that have been with us for over 20 years.
Wow.
And they have grown with us. You know, we've got a particular OEM that once started out with pallets in the corner of a warehouse, and now we look after their entire global aftermarket operation. So we are able to get behind and support, but all I ask in return is that data and information is shared with us very early on, to give us that opportunity to really know the business. And then, you know, the rest is history, as they say, Mark.
Absolutely. And I guess it really is getting that full picture. Otherwise, it's top of the iceberg type of situation. You can't affect change throughout the entire organization. You really need access to the full story, and early on. I think that's a really nice point as well, to have as early on that conversation as possible. Save a lot of money, save a lot of time, save a lot of inefficiencies as well, I imagine.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, this has been a super talk. It definitely is something I've learned a ton about just in prepping for today. And it's a whole side. I love these conversations because it's a whole side of the industry you know exists, but you don't know how or with whom. So this is a really cool research project, and hopefully something that the audience learned a little bit as well today and can take something away. But before we wrap up, from either of you, any final points that you want to share?
No, just thank you so much for having us, Mark. It's been a real treat. I feel very honoured for us both to be here, to be able to continue to collaborate together to bring out this message. So thank you very much for having us.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you, Mark. I just completely echo everything that Lucie said. So yeah, thanks for having us on. Absolutely.
It's been great having you both, and I appreciate the insights, as I mentioned, and your time today as well. And look forward to seeing this relationship continue with what you both are bringing to the market. I think it's a super collaboration, and it's something that you don't see too often of these days. So yeah, congratulations on what you've had, and really look forward to keeping a close eye and having that talk in 12 months time, as you mentioned, Lucie. I look forward to seeing an update on that and getting some names out there. So yeah, listen, again, thank you both very, very much for today. I've learned a lot, and yeah, wish you a great rest of the year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to everyone watching and listening to this episode of the Auto Tech Show, thank you very much for being with me, being with us, as it were. Big thank you to Lucie and Unipart and Maria at Hyperbat for joining me in this talk and sharing all those great insights and a little bit of a look behind the curtain of what goes on in a relationship and collaboration like this. Tons to take away. Learned a lot. Hopefully you have as well. If you want to add to this conversation, or you have a question about something you heard, head down to the comments section, head down to the notes in the podcast, and you'll be able to get in touch with us. So there'll be some resources there. Look a little bit about what Unipart and Hyperbat are doing as well. Resources down there for you to check out and learn a little bit more. But with that, we'll bring this episode of the Auto Tech Show to a close. Thank you so very much again for being with us. I wish you a great day wherever in the world you may be. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now. This episode of the Auto Tech Show is sponsored by Zebra Technologies, connecting you with the edge, where the future is boundless.